What's going on, Molding the Mindset YouTube family? Welcome back to another episode. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate the support thus far, man. Today we got a special one. Mr. Justin A. Reese joined the podcast. We talk about his career as an attorney. We talk about growing up in New Orleans. We talk about his sports agency career as well. Also, reality TV star on Bravo. So we touch on that experience. A lot of great lessons in here, man. He's a really cool guy. It's a great conversation. I think you guys are going to take a lot out of what we spoke about. I know I really enjoyed the conversation. So I hope you guys enjoyed as well. If you liked the video, please hit that thumbs up button. Do me a favor. If you aren't subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it as family continues to get bigger, and I think there's a lot of great things coming. Also, hit that bell to get them noties. And every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we're on Twitch streaming these episodes. If you want to come by, join the community, join the conversation, join chat, I would love to see you there. If not, I'll catch you here. Thank you for watching. Do me a favor, smile for me one time. See you. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Molding the Mindset. Today's a special one. I'm super excited about this one. We have a great guest today. I think you guys are really going to enjoy this conversation. I think you guys are really going to enjoy the story. Please welcome Mr. Justin A. Reese to the show, man. What's going on? Let's go. How about that? You like that energy or what?
Man, I love it, man. I appreciate that, man. Ooh, I feel right at home already, man.
Yeah, okay. What's going on, man? How are you?
I am doing good, man. Doing real good, man. I sincerely appreciate you having me on this, man. I'm excited today.
Listen, I appreciate you being open to doing it. First of all, we'll talk about how okay. So for everyone watching on Twitch right now and in chat, this is the first time Justin and I have actually had a conversation besides like going back and forth on like Instagram DM. So if let's just jump into it. I think you reached out to me from Instagram, and I'm just curious as to what sort of, because I want to know, just so I'm aware. You reached out to me on Instagram, just connecting, doing your thing. Can you explain, one, maybe why you did that, why you decided to do that,
Sure.
and then two, let's just start there, and then we'll.
Well, man, I came across your Instagram platform and I saw some of the things you were doing with your content. And I was like, man, look, I like this young guy, man. He's from Philly. We got that Philly connection going on.
We're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about that.
Yep. I used to live in Philly, Temple Owls, you know what I'm saying? So, we had that connection and I saw what you were doing with sports. I have that connection with being a sports agent as well. And just like the energy you had, man. And I wanted to be a part of it. I wanted to come and share whatever insight knowledge that I could with your viewers and, help just put some information out there with regards to all the different things that I'm doing with law, with sports. Hey, what's happening in our community, anything like that, man. I've been very fortunate to, practice law and make the few dollars that I have, that I've made and be on a reality TV show. But I want to start really putting out something to me that is not just entertainment value. I want to put out some substantive stuff, and don't get me wrong, I enjoy doing the entertainment stuff, but there's another layer to me. And I'm just putting myself out there to talk to people and just get people to see a different side of me as well.
I can appreciate that, and I appreciate those comments. I also immediately gravitated to your energy as well on Instagram and stuff you were putting out. So kudos to you, and I'm excited to do this. Let's start there before we get into your story, which I'm extremely excited to talk to you about. I do want to talk about the power of social media real quick. Because it is very relevant. I just on Wednesday did an episode where I talked about the validation problem, and what I mean by that is the problem that social media has now created in our society, especially with the younger generation, with constantly doing things because they want to get likes or they want to get clicks or they want to get views. And the story that I used was my cousin, a close family member, on Christmas had said she didn't post something on her. She has a Finsta and a Rinsta. Do you know what a Finsta and a Rinsta is?
So I've heard the term Finsta. That's when you kind of have like a fake Instagram account to like kind of look at stuff, maybe even hype up your page a little bit.
Yeah. So she said She said I posted a photo dump on my Finsta, and her younger sister joking and hysterically goes, that means her fake Instagram to me.
Yeah.
As she said it. because I can't put that on my real Instagram because, you know, my like people will unfollow me. And she was
Yeah.
so genuine and so sincere when she said it. Like she didn't really like understand what she was saying at the time, but when she said it, I was like taken back.
Yeah.
So I want to get your thoughts on just how you think social media has sort of shaped our society. Do you think it's for the better? Do you think it's for the worse? But also, I want to get your sort of strategy when it comes to social media because there is a positive side to social media,
Hmm.
right? Like how we
Yep.
linked up and how you reached out to me, and you can meet people that you have never met before in your, you know, that you would never meet 20 years ago. We would have never met 20 years, maybe by chance, but it had to be like, you know, the stars had to align. So
Right.
how do you use social media in your personal life and sort of connect? We'll start there and then we'll jump into the other.
So, just like many people with social media, I initially began just kind of posting pictures of where I was going, what I was doing, all of those kind of different things. And, it was a lot of the likes that you're searching for, trying to get the hype on your page, these different things. And, I guess I'm part of one of the test markets for Instagram because I can't see people's likes anymore on my Instagram account. So
That's
I can't.
everyone. I don't think I could see that. That's
No, there's still people out there who can still see likes.
oh,
And I'm not one of them. And so I thought that was actually a good thing because I truly felt like you were saying that people were they were literally doing it just for, as they say, trying to, cloud chase, just to get validation. And that's the absolute wrong thing to do it for because you start going down a very dangerous rabbit hole. One of the things that I've learned, and it's Newton's third law, is for every action there's an opposite and equal reaction, and that's for everything. It's not just the law of motion. I think it's for everything. For every one thing you do that's a great positive, there's also an equal balance as a negative, right?
right, right.
So
Every
you
action
know
has a reaction.
it does.
Right.
It truly does. It truly does. So the things that social media has done, especially for what is it, Generation Z,
Yeah.
demographics. I mean, the entrepreneurship behind these 18, 19, 20, 21 year olds who are out here making some serious money.
Right.
I mean, I'm just completely like, whoa,
Yeah.
this is awesome. But the downside to that is that they chase that rabbit hole where they need social media as also validation for their life and their self-worth, and that is
Right.
very dangerous combination. So for those who are out there using social media, you don't have to feel like you have to succumb to what's going to validate you on social media platforms. Just put out your content, and whatever happens at the end of the day. Just like with athletes, you're going to have, if your best picture, your best video gets 1 million views, that's like a Kobe Bryant hitting 60 points, but that just doesn't happen all the time. You might have the 15-point game, but that's still a great day,
Mhm.
and that's how people need to look at it.
Mhm. Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that sentiment. I think that's actually what I relayed to her when she told me that story, or when she told me what, you know, that she couldn't do that. I remember saying to her, like, listen to me, literally that what you just said about doing it for yourself and not doing it for other people is
Hmm.
what I said to her. And I think like my follow up question to her was, okay, are you trying to be an influencer? Because maybe then, and even then I would say still do it because you want to, but I could see the business side of it being like, okay, maybe it's not going to connect with my fans, right? So
Right.
her response being no, I was like, well then you have no reason to not put, like, if someone's going to unfollow you, you don't want them there anyway.
You
Like
don't want them there anyway. Absolutely.
right.
Absolutely. Look,
Right. Right.
I lost actually a lot of followers on my platform. Last year when COVID happened, when George Floyd happened,
Mm-hmm.
especially when the Derek Chauvin and George Floyd incident happened. I mean, it triggered something in me. And I've always been a person about, equality,
Mm-hmm.
especially being a lawyer, liberty, as we say in our Pledge of Allegiance, liberty and justice for all. Like, I really want this world to live by that last line because that's the one they put it there for a reason. That would be one of the last things you remember: liberty and justice for all.
Correct.
And so when I saw that happen, I was posting a lot of stuff with regards to that that whole incident about, the inequality of it, how, in my opinion, and look, I love the police. I have family, friends, I support the police, all of those good things. But there needs to, I was talking about, there needs to be more accountability. And a lot of people didn't like what I had to say.
Right.
And I lost a lot of followers because of it. I mean, I had people in my inbox talking about, what are you talking about? You're the successful attorney. You need the police. I'm like, yes, I'm not saying I don't need the police, but just like me as an attorney is held accountable when I mess up, or when a doctor does a bad surgery,
Right.
that doctor's held accountable. Police aren't immune from that. Yes, they have a very high risk job. Yes, they put their lives on the line, but they also have to be held accountable. Same thing as, just because you have a badge and a gun, it doesn't give you a license to kill. It's
Correct.
the same thing when military personnel, when they have the unfortunate experience of going overseas and they're engaging in battle and combat, they don't just have a free random license to kill. If they do something wrong out there where they don't follow the rules of engagement, they can be court-martialed and go to jail at Leavenworth in Kansas. If that's the case, and they're actually in a full-out war and they can be held accountable, the police need to be held accountable in the same respect.
Right.
And so I lost a ton of followers behind that, but I didn't care. I was just like, this is my feelings, this is my platform, this is my page. And if you don't like what I have to say, then you don't have to follow me. Now, I was doing whatever I could to also back it up by law. I was putting out information saying, look, as far as accountability, people were talking about defunding the police. Look, when I say defund the police, I'm not talking about just take their budget away and punish them. I'm like, no, let's change some things around. Let's do some diversity training. Let's do longer training than at the police academy, because I know you have to pay these people because they're giving up their jobs to do training. So there needs to be some type of compensation. But training programs need to, in my opinion, need to be longer than a year, or longer than a few months.
Right.
I
100.
think
I couldn't agree more.
it needs to be a year. And that's what I'm talking about. Let's take some of those resources and let's shift the mindset, of the police and the training. Let's teach them other tactics and other, situations where they can use non-lethal. It's just, that's where I was saying with like defund the police. I was like, I think those things, and look, it's not an overnight process. We're talking about, this is going to be years, maybe even generations, but it has to start somewhere.
Right. I listen. I think you make a lot of great points, and I think people get agitated very easily on social media and can be triggered really easily on social media. But the fact that it never affected you, right, and you continue to post that information because it was important to you to
Mhm.
post that information, and you felt that it was important to get this sort of information out there, is a key takeaway from that. It never, you losing followers because you were posting something that's very important, to not only you but important to a lot of people, is an important note. And I think you mentioned something else there about social media and about the the year that 2020 was, and all of the things that occurred in 2020.
Mhm.
And I think the one thing that bothers me about social media and about posting stuff like that on social media, it's not the fact that you're posting the stuff on social media. It's the fact that, like, when I see a lot of people posting that sort of stuff, and a lot of the times I'm like, you're just doing that because everyone else is doing that. Like,
Right.
I'm an actions speak
Yeah.
loud. I'm an actions person, right? So
Yeah.
I don't want to sit there and talk about, and yeah, I don't want to sit there and talk about this and talk, like, what can we do? What are the, like you just mentioned, steps that are action steps for maybe how we can better tailor training programs for police officers, right? That's an
Yep.
action step. I'm not just going to sit on social media and just put out, we need, put out these messages, which I know a lot of people do. And I think that's what bothers me about that stuff sometimes. Like,
Yeah.
what's the reason you're doing it though?
No, absolutely. I mean, a lot of people just kind of follow the crowd, and I remember seeing a story during the protest, and there was like an influencer out there who kind of just took a quick picture, hopped in the car as if they were, or they would took a quick picture that they were out there protesting, and someone recognized who they were, and while they were taking the picture, then they hopped in the car and just drove home,
Yeah.
and they made it seem like they were out there for a cause.
Perfect example.
Yes,
Perfect example of that,
yes,
right? So
yes.
the reasons why we do things are so important. And And if you truly believe in it, then great. Great. And you're really trying to put action into those words, which is so much more important. So how do you use social media to your advantage from a connecting standpoint, right? Because I think that's the most powerful side of social media
Yeah.
is that we are able to connect with people all around the world. And sometimes, I think people don't take full advantage of that. I think
Yeah.
it's really a comfort level within yourself to be able to reach out to new people that you've maybe never spoken to before. Like
Hmm.
you reaching out to me. That's a great like you don't know me. You saw my page and you said, "Hey, this maybe looks interesting." And here we are now doing the podcast. So like
Yeah.
I think that's such a huge lesson. If you could just touch on that and how you sort of implement that into your, into your career and
Yeah.
into your personal life, that'd be
No, absolutely. So I was one that, I'm not gonna lie, I really took social media for granted.
Mhm.
I was all about the, more so the, let's call it the lifestyle, of it. Like, hey, I'm gonna post a picture of me at a nice hotel in Miami, or
Yeah.
on this trip, or at this fun event. And all of that stuff was great. And I mean, me being on a reality show, I got a lot of followers just naturally from being on TV.
Mhm.
And I'm, during the pandemic, I was sitting at home, and I was like, like I said in the beginning, like, I can appreciate, and I still, don't get me wrong, I enjoy those things, and I'm still gonna post about those things. But I have this platform to where I feel like I can do so much more. I feel like I've educated myself to a very high level with both book smarts, street smarts. I've had a lot of experiences, and there's a lot of people at home that I could be helping educate, because before I became an attorney, I was a teacher.
Okay.
And
Okay.
yeah. And so, and that was something, education is something I've always been passionate about. And I don't mean education in the traditional sense where you just go to school. I'm talking about just educating yourself, reading books, learning trades, learning about things, learning about politics and government and finance and economics and law, and all of these different things that's going to make you a more well-rounded person. And I'm like, I need to be sharing information. I need to be putting all of the things that I've learned out there, because there's people who don't know and don't have this information, and maybe I can spark something in them to kind of make myself a little bit of a catalyst, so that way they can go out and further research things and further learn. And so I'm seeing, like, I'm wasting this platform that I have by just like, hey, let me just put this picture up in Miami. There's so much more to me than going on vacations.
Right.
And I was like, I've got to use this. I've got to do something.
Right. That's amazing. That's you said a lot of great things there. Mainly, the educating yourself thing is something that I have gotten better at over the last few years. And I was never a huge reader up until about like 26, 27. I'm 29 now. So up until like a few years ago, I was never a huge reader. And I had a mentor of mine who loves to say, like, listen, I'm not a huge reader either, but I know how important it is to
Hmm.
expand your mind and open up your mind to these ideas. And if you could just read 15 to 20 minutes a day,
That's it.
you're doing more than most people.
You took the words literally right out of my mouth, man. I'm not, I'm well, naturally I have to be a big reader because I've
Mm.
got to read law books
Yeah,
and case law all day. So
yeah,
I'm not gonna lie, I used to have the mindset where I was like, man, I'm reading case law all day, and I'm reading all of these different laws when I'm trying to draft my motions, and I'm like, I just don't want to read anything else. However, I decided, I said, you know what? I'm going to start changing that up. I'm not going to, you don't have to sit down and spend your entire evening reading a book like people used to do back in the 40s because they didn't have any
right,
TV.
right, right, right,
You
right, right,
know,
right, right, right. Yeah, yeah,
that doesn't have to
yeah,
be your Thursday evening or your Friday evening reading a
yeah.
book by the fire.
Right.
This is not that. But you'd be surprised how much you can knock out if you just dedicate just 20 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day reading, or just knock out, if you're reading a book, just knock out one chapter a day, how fast you can actually wind up getting through that book.
Right. For sure. Yeah, that's a great yeah. I think when people think of the act of reading, it's like I need to sit down and really be interested for the next 4.5 hours. And it's like
Yeah.
it doesn't take that much. No, 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 no. Like I have a bookshelf over here in the corner. I don't know if you can see it or not. Like,
Yeah, I can see it.
yeah, like those books, I'm not like I'm interested in getting better and I'm interested in a lot of self-help material. But I don't really have like the attention span to sit down for that long. So like a lot of those books up there, I just sit down, again, 10 to 15 minutes, I just try to do here and there, but I know it's something. It's better than nothing.
Yeah.
Absolutely better than nothing. So
Yep.
uh
And
go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say, yeah, for all those folks out there that are watching, literally, you'd be surprised how fast you can get through a book if you just do 20 minutes a day. And that's the
Yeah.
other thing. The other thing is people feel like you said, that they've got to consume this whole thing and they look at it like, I gotta read all of this. Well, no, not at one time.
Right.
Just you just break it up in little pieces. It's like eating a steak. You're not gonna put the whole thing in your mouth and chew it. No, you're gonna cut it up piece by piece. Same thing with the book. It's the same principle, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. So again, to anyone who's new to the stream, who's just getting in here, this is the first time you and I have met. So I'm really excited to see. I'm really excited to learn more about you, how you got to where you're at now. And when I talk to people about these sort of things, I like starting at the beginning and
Hmm.
see how they've sort of progressed over the years, how they learned, and how they got to where they're at now. So, you're from New Orleans, correct?
Born and raised.
Born and raised. Okay. To anyone, I have a lot of Philadelphia viewers, so maybe can we just sort of paint the picture for what it's like growing up in New Orleans, and what
Yep.
that experience, what that experience like.
Oh man, look, being from New Orleans, I truly feel like, and look, I all your Philadelphians who are watching, I got so much love, but being from New Orleans, I feel like I'm from the best place on earth,
Okay,
literally.
as you
You know,
should, as you
we
should.
look, for me growing up in the city, and I didn't realize how true, how special it was until after I moved
Mm.
away for college. Because growing up with Mardi Gras and having the French and Spanish influence as much as it is in the city, the Creole food, the music, the jazz, all of these different things. I mean, for me, that was our normal. That was my normal growing up. That was who we were. And then once I leave as a very young adult at 18 years old, and people are like, oh man, you're from New Orleans? Oh man, y'all got the best food, y'all have the best music, y'all have, oh man, y'all got Mardi Gras. And I'm like, yeah, it's straight. It's good. I'm
Yeah,
like, you
that's
know,
real quick. Real quick. That's such a interesting thing that you just said there, because I felt the same way about, like, I feel like that's just natural when we grow up somewhere and we are in one place for such a long time. You
yes.
kind of take it for granted for being in that place. Like, I'm born and raised in Philly. I moved to LA for 2 years, and now I appreciate the city much more than when I did before I was just here. And when I went to college and I went to high school and grew up here, and it's like, just, you don't appreciate what you have in front of you, the place you grew up in. It's
No,
interesting.
absolutely, man. And I'm gonna tell you the thing about New Orleans, having a lot of that rich culture and history, there's no place like it. And
Mm,
so that really made me appreciate where I'm from, because look, I've lived a lot of different places. I've lived in Houston, I've lived in Atlanta, I've lived in Philly.
mm.
I've visited several different places. And to me, there's just no place like New Orleans. When you look at the architecture, our buildings,
Yeah.
just our vibe. Like there's a reason why they call us the Big Easy, because literally we're just kind of like, it's all good. It's
I
literally,
love that. I
it's
love it.
all good.
So I've actually never been to New Orleans. I plan on going at some point. So, to someone who's never been there, what are like three things? And I have heard that actually Bourbon Street is probably like the last place you want to go visit when going to New Orleans. Is that true? Like, I feel like there's so much more to the city than just going to Bourbon Street. Correct?
There's definitely a lot more to the city than going to Bourbon Street. I always tell people, if you're a first timer in New Orleans, you got to go to Bourbon Street just to say that you did it.
Right. Okay.
You
Makes
know,
sense.
but do not spend your entire
Yeah.
vacation on Bourbon Street, because
Mhm.
there definitely, yes, there is a lot more. The city has so many different sides of town. You know, um, Uptown, the Garden District, Magazine Street, lots of restaurants, shopping, like antique shopping, boutique shopping. We have a lot of historical sites with our cemeteries, being in the French Quarter.
Mm, mm.
People that look, I've even done a swamp tour. People like, you're from there. I don't live in a swamp. I live in the city.
Right. Right.
There's,
Right. Right. Right.
but going outside the city and doing a swamp tour, especially if you get on one of the airboats, yo,
They
those
look
airboats,
they look so
yo,
cool.
those airboats are no joke, man. Like it is
That's awesome.
also for
Yeah.
it's also for real swamp people, man. If y'all ever seen that show,
That's
I mean, those airboats are fun, man.
Yeah, that's something I've definitely seen like on social media. I'm like, oh, I want to try that at some point.
Yes, I
Yeah.
highly recommend the airboats. And I mean, just the other sides of town outside of the French Quarter, the Bywater, the Marigny, lots of places where you can go listen to great live music.
Mm.
And the one of the coolest things about New Orleans is, yes, we have our little spot in New Orleans, the Warehouse District, where you have kind of like more of like your nightclubs and people kind of get dressed up.
Mm.
But everywhere else, man, it's literally come as you are, and you're
That's
still
awesome.
having a great time.
That's awesome. That makes me more excited to even want to come visit.
Yeah.
So how has like growing up in New Orleans turned you into the person who you are today? Like I was reading that your mom was big into civil rights and a civil activist in New Orleans and stuff like that. And I think if I'm correct, please correct me if I'm wrong. And I think
So
you're
she does more so civic activism. She's a big fundraiser. Not so much civil rights, but civic
okay. Okay.
activism. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
See that? Okay.
yeah,
I'm just an
yeah, yeah.
idiot.
No, no,
Apo,
no, no,
apo.
no, no. I think it was actually a misprint somewhere because my mom was. I was talking to my mom about that. My mother is a big civic activist. She
Okay.
has sat on the boards of many different charitable organizations.
Mm.
Even at one point, she was voted philanthropist of the year in
Wow.
the city of New Orleans. Because she's helped raise so much money for different organizations.
That's
That
amazing.
is her thing. That's what she loves to do. She's super passionate about it. And that's actually one of the things that she's taught me early on as a kid. I mean, she had me, feeding the homeless on Thanksgiving,
Mm.
when I was younger.
Mm.
And it's always been a part of and it wasn't just a one-time thing. It was a regular thing. She always had myself and my younger brother giving back to the community in some form or fashion.
Okay. Wow. That's yeah. Giving back is one of the early things that I learned from my first mentor, the guy who I've talked about him a lot on the stream and on the podcast and
Hmm.
stuff like that. He's the one that sort of opened up my mind to viewing the world in a different light. If it wasn't for him, we probably wouldn't even be doing this.
Yeah.
Just from him changing the direction of my life. And giving back is one of my favorite things to do. I just talked about engineering serendipity in my last episode, and how when you give back and like go to these charity events and stuff like that,
Yeah.
for someone who's not big into giving back, if you're watching, right, there's nothing wrong, you're not a bad person for not doing that. But when you go to like these events and you go and you do these amazing things for these amazing causes and these amazing charities, you never know who you're going to meet. You never know who you're gonna rub elbows with.
Yeah.
It's such a cool experience to do things like that, and it's obviously for great causes, and it's
I'm gonna,
it's a great thing to do.
at these that's a great point because I want to further expound on that. That is actually probably some of the best networking you can do is at a charity event, because what winds up happening is the room that you're in. That means people there they have money to just give away.
Right, right.
And that's huge because
Right.
if they just if they have discretionary cash just to give away, that means they're in a place where you probably want to be.
Mhm.
you know so it's twofold. One, you get to do something really good first and foremost for the community. You get to help out and feel good about yourself that you're doing something positive. And then secondly, that's an opportunity to do some very hardcore networking, because a lot of the individuals in there are probably they're running a business, that where their business is able to donate to that company, and that's networking right there. Or that person may be able to put you in contact with someone. So I think that's probably one of the best places to be.
Uh, I couldn't agree more. I'm actually curious about that. I want to ask you,
Mhm.
um, because I'm trying to gauge this, like I'm trying to get in touch with the younger generation, my little brother and sister and that sort of thing, who are 18, 19 years old and stuff like that. What would be your approach, like if you're going to an event like that and you've never been to an event like that? Maybe this is your
Mhm.
first big charity event. Like, you want to go and meet some people maybe, or you're trying to branch out for the first time. How would you sort of approach that situation if you were going into it?
Well, no, that's a great question. So what I would say in that scenario, depending on the organization it is, you want to understand what, first and foremost, what event that you're attending and what it's for, right?
Mm. Do your
And
homework.
yeah, do your homework. Once you get there, always be prepared, whatever industry you're in. I mean, look, we're still dealing with, some of the baby boomers
Mhm.
who are still in high positions. We're still, dealing with, oh, I forgot the generation past the baby boomers,
That,
but
that older, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. The people who have been
so
established for a very long
yes,
time. Yeah, yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah.
So a
Yep.
lot of them still kind of operate in a more traditional a more conservative manner. So the way that you may present yourself to, like, say for someone like me, I'll be 39 in June, right? So if you're about your business, I don't care if you have tattoos and all of this other things. If you do great work and we can make each other money, then you're money to me. You know what I'm saying? We're good,
Right.
you know. But for some of those other folks, you got to know your audience. So whatever you're walking into, you might want to have business cards. I know a lot of people don't sometimes carry business cards anymore. You want to carry business cards, and you want to perfect an elevator pitch, and that's being able to present yourself in the amount of time that it would take to ride up the elevator with someone,
Right.
when you're talking, because you want to grab their attention first.
Right.
And then make sure that when you're talking to people, you're always being genuine about the questions that you ask them. Don't just go,
Mm.
hey, what's your name? What do you do?
Mm.
Like, you can't just jump into it.
100%.
You,
Uh-huh.
you can't just jump into it.
Right.
You always gotta, at least you gotta start off, come in, introduce yourself, like, oh my God, this is an amazing event. This is such a great cause. I love being a part of things, and say, is there, when you're talking, be like, how many events do you like to do per year? What causes are special to you?
Right.
Start getting to know the person, when you're talking to them. You don't want to just be aggressive and be like, hey, I'm Justin, I'm great. What's your name and what do you do? Because they're gonna see, like, well, clearly this person's out for one thing.
Right.
Be very genuine about your conversations and just let them flow naturally. When you start having actual interactions with people where you're asking them about their interest, then you can kind of start to work in, like, oh wow, that's awesome. Does that also tie into your profession? Is there a way that you do that? Well, then you can kind of throw it in there. Well, what kind of work do you do? So that is how I would say, when you're approaching new people, because look, some circles are small and it's hard to break into it, and you're not going to just bulldoze your way into it. And if you try to do that and you make yourself seen regularly, the word will get out about you, and then you will never get in.
Right. Right. That's an interesting point. Very interesting. Um, I I want to expand on the being personal first point, instead
Mhm.
of just saying, what do you do, or like, right, and just trying to get straight to business. We were talking about social media earlier. I think it's the same. It crosses over into that as well. It's like, I I don't want to talk to someone who is just trying to sell me something right off the bat, or trying, like, the best salesman. And I take this from my mentor, right? He told me a long time ago, he's in insurance. He told me a very long time ago that I have never sold anything a day in my life. And he means this genuinely, right? I've
Mhm.
never sold anything a day in my life. I enjoy building relationships with people. And the first thing I do, we mentioned giving back, right? The
Yeah.
first thing I do is always try to give back to someone first. What can I do for you, and how can I be of service first? And then, right, later on down the line, that person goes, oh, by the way, I need insurance. Do you think you can help?
Yeah.
Right. So being genuine, you mentioned being genuine, and being, uh, your first objective being to make things personal, and try to actually build a genuine relationship with someone, is so much more important than you just trying to get the next client, or
Yes.
sell someone to something.
Absolutely. I'm gonna tell you, look, at my law firm, we do a lot of advertising, but there's nothing that has been more successful as far as marketing has been just the relationships that I've developed,
Hmm?
and just being like, just doing, look, grassroots. When I'm in the grocery store, if I'm out and about, if I'm just genuinely talking to people, I'm having an entire conversation. And then the last thing that I'll leave them with is like, oh, by the way, I'm an attorney. If there's anything that I could ever help you with, because you always want to be of value to someone. Like
Right.
like your mentor said, you always want to be of value, add value. And then, I mean, without question, it's always like, oh, well, you know what? By the way, my cousin just got into an auto accident. I'm gonna give him your information.
Right.
My mom just had an accident. She's looking for an attorney. Boom. That literally has worked 100% of the time.
Right. Right. It's a tried, tested, and true, as they say.
Mhm.
As it,
Yeah.
I don't know. It sounds like I got that right. I don't know. Uh, I'm sorry, laughing at myself. I like to listen. This is not. I try to keep this. How I try to separate myself from other self-help sort of things like the Gary V's of the world and all those sort of like very serious self-help things. It's just to kind of keep it fun and keep it loose. I don't try to take things too seriously.
Oh, dude,
Uh,
Gary V is on 10,
uh,
on 12, like all the time.
Listen, man, I can't. I like to speak, but that guy, holy
Yeah,
smokes!
I actually did a Zoom with him one time.
How did that go?
It was awesome. The
Yeah,
dude, I mean, the dude will have you run through a brick wall.
yeah. Oh,
You know,
that I can see. That I
the
can see.
dude
But
that guy will have you run through a brick wall. And I mean, he pretty much just tells you, one, he tells you like it is, and two, he's willing to say what a lot of people won't say,
right, right.
but it's
That's
the truth. It's the truth. Some people don't like his approach, but he's like, he's like, look, guys, the biggest thing about Gary Vee is whatever it is that you want, just go do it. Who cares if you fall flat on your face
mm,
first?
for sure.
A lot of people, and look, I'm a very transparent person. I'll be the one to tell you, like, look, I've had a lot of successes, but I am not perfect. I've had a lot of failures. I've had a lot of struggles, but the one thing about me is that at least I always tried. You know,
Right.
and prior to that, I'll say even prior to that, I was one that suffered from what they call paralysis by analysis.
Mm,
I'm always overthinking everything.
mm-hmm.
I just wanted to study and become a master of it before I even try things. And it's like,
Have you been like following me around, like trying to like learn my like because I'm the same way, man. Like I'm guilty of that as well, 100%.
oh, and I'm gonna tell you, it's actually been one of my biggest. It's been a big handicap for me for a long time until I actually realized that about myself. It's like, I always wanted to master it and perfect it before I went and tried it. And it's like, no, the best way to really learn how to do something is to actually just go do it and get experience doing
That
it.
couldn't be more. That couldn't be more true. Like that,
Oh,
I
oh,
couldn't agree with that more. And it's uh, I, I try to stay away from cliches, but I do always respect the. And this is not really a cliche. This is just a matter of fact, right? I do have way more respect, and will always listen to someone who has tried and failed compared to someone who has never tried anything, right? Like has never tried
yes,
anything,
yes,
right? So
absolutely,
I
absolutely,
can appreciate that.
absolutely. Because at the end of the day, I mean, you really don't get experience until you actually get your hands dirty.
Mhm.
Because you'll learn every time you do something, something else different happens,
Right.
and then you learn from that experience. So, like for me, being a lawyer, every time I've gotten a case or I've gone to trial, something else has happened, and it's still a learning experience.
Mhm.
This lawyer did this, that. I was like, whoa, I wasn't ready for that. I wasn't, and it's not that it killed my case, but it was just something that I was like, whoa, maybe next time I need to prepare for that. I was not ready for that.
Yeah.
And all of these different things, like I've gotten into real estate a little bit myself, and man, the first house that I tried to flip, oh my god, it was a disaster.
How
Like
so?
I wound up losing like probably it was a small. Thank God it was a very small. And look, I tell people, look, it's great that you want to come out and you want to hit the big home runs starting out, but do yourself a favor and actually learn how to do it first. Because and I say this on so many different levels, and I give two examples. One, thank God this happened on the level that it did. I had a house, and the house at max value might have been worth like $45,000,
Okay.
right? And so the disaster part was, I wound up putting like six or maybe even like $7,000 in this house, trying to like just get it fixed up, cleaned up, just like basically put some lipstick on it, get the plumbing changed
Livable.
up, livable,
Right.
and but it's a small house, but it's not like a slum. Like I'm actually trying to like repaint it, like make it livable,
Hmm.
like somewhere where it's like you don't feel like where you're walking into, you know. And I tried to put it on the market. I put again at that point in time, and I didn't do my market research at that point in time. It was just I put too much into it. No one wanted to buy it at that time. So I wound up doing what they call a quick claim deed, where someone paid me like it's almost like a lease with the option to purchase.
Hmm.
And so they paid me a down payment. It was like a seller financing thing, and I was paying the money every month. And like I'm still at this point, I'm still kind of like upside down on the property. Like I got a little bit of my money back with the down payment that they made, but they're basically paying the note until they're able to pay it off. But even if they pay it off, I'm still going to be upside down on this house. So I'm in the negative like $5,000, $6,000. And unfortunately, something happened with the person who bought it. She wasn't able to finish paying for it, so I acquired the house back. Now, within that 7 or 8 months, the market had completely changed. I put the house back on the market, and I was able to make my profit on the back end. But that was a learning lesson for me. Two things: one, know the market, knowing what's going on, so that way you can know how much to put into it, and that way you're taking risks, but they're all calculated risks,
Right,
right?
right,
Thank
right.
God I didn't do that with, and I had the money, let's say, to go invest in a bill where I might have put up like 50 grand. Thank God I didn't do something like that, because that is a much more detrimental loss as opposed to the potential $5,000 to $7,000 that I would have lost. Right?
Right.
You can get that back. You can recoup that back. That's not as a big of a hit as 50. Right?
Mhm.
Same thing with practicing law. Oh, I wanted these $1 million cases when I first came out of law
Yeah, yeah,
school.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah. Yeah,
like
you want to be a superstar. You want to
I
be the
wanted to be the
yeah.
superstar. I
Right.
wanted to make it. Look, we have a big commission. We're not real estate agents making 3% over here. We get a third to 40% of the fee.
Mhm.
So I'm like, bring on the $1 million cases. Thank God I did not have any of those starting out in my career, because I wouldn't have known what to do with them.
Mm.
I would have bossed them up, because what it takes to build your case to get to that level, it's not just like, oh, my client's hurt, give me $1 million. There is a lot that goes into it. And it was building steps. I started settling cases that were like 15 grand, then 50 grand, then
Mhm.
100 grand, then 250, half a million, and then a million. It was like just building blocks. And through all of those different experiences, you learn how to get better every single time. And most importantly, you want to do a great job, not just for yourself, but most importantly for your clients,
Mhm.
because they're the ones that really matter at the end of the day.
That listen, you there were so many great points in that, and I think ultimately what you just culminated that with, with the building blocks, right? With the $15,000 case and the $20,000 case, and I think when we mentioned the social media thing earlier, a lot of what social media has done for that younger generation now is that instant gratification, and
Mhm.
I am guilty of it 100%. I am getting better at, now with age, at
Yep.
not wanting instant and just enjoying the process. How much of that process, right, of going, of wanting to be, everyone wants to be the superstar, everyone wants to be, of course we want to make the money, because ultimately more money gives us more freedoms,
Yep.
essentially gives us a better life, essentially we think brings us happiness, right?
Yep.
But how important is it to enjoy the actual process along the way versus just trying to chase the money?
The To me, the process is, that's the foundation of everything. And I'm gonna tell you, when I changed my mindset, and look, pun intended here, molding the mindset, right?
That's yeah,
When I
that's
when I
uh,
changed when I changed my mindset, because when I used to get cases, the first thing I used to look at was like, well, how much insurance do we have? Because that's gonna tell me how much money I could potentially make.
right.
Wrong way to look at it. What I started doing,
Real quick, sorry, real quick, I want to stop you. What was there a specific thing that happened that made you change it? Like how did that change? Does that make sense?
no, it does. No, that's a great point. So I was so focused on how much money I could potentially make from this case that I actually lost sight of the case. And I was not
Mm,
resolving. First of all, I was not representing my clients, and I wasn't shortchanging them, because I'm not out here committing malpractice, but I
right.
wasn't truly listening to their needs, right? And if I listen to their needs, they can tell me, hey, Justin, this is what's going on with me. This is how I'm feeling. These are what the doctors are saying. What is the next course of action? Because a lot of what we can do with our clients as far as treatment, is based on how much money is available. And so I'm like, you're good. You have these injuries. We're going to get this. And settlements were not working out like I thought they were, or I wasn't able to get the right expert involved to really give them a future wage claim like they needed to have. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, I need to figure out something. What am I doing wrong here? And I said, you know what? Let me do this. I am going to truly listen to my clients, like listen and actively listen. If they are hurt, we are going to make sure they get to the right doctors. if they are at this job and they're working here and they're not able to do that, well, then I need to get someone involved that is an expert that can write a report to say, well, based on their injuries, this type of work, they can't do that.
Mhm.
And with my level of economic backgrounds and being able to work, I'm going to write a report to say, well, this is how much they're going to need for their lifetime. And I just started focusing on all of the needs of my client first. And then once I did that, that's when the money really started coming.
Yeah.
And it was through that process of like, you know what? And this goes for, I think goes for everything. If you have a process in place and you do everything you need to do, whether if you're an attorney trying to work up a case, whether if you're in real estate trying to build a house, if you're a content creator, if you have your workflow, your work chart, and your process and your content, everything will come
Right.
afterwards. You know, you can't just like, even with what you do, you can't just come out and have a show and expect to have 1 million viewers when you don't have a process. Because if you're not out there with some type of legitimate flow, with a process in place, you're not going to retain those viewers. You know, you got to have
Right.
process and organization to everything to be successful.
I I couldn't agree more. That I
Unless
couldn't
you
agree
just win
more.
the lottery, and if that's the case, well, I mean, congratulations. I
Well,
mean,
here's
you know,
here's the thing about the lottery. You have a better chance of actually working for it and making money on your own than actually winning the lottery. So just
oh,
work. So just work for it, and it will all work out. I have a friend who used to joke around all the time about that. It's funny to mention because it's actually like a story. I had a friend every time we used to walk into like a 7-Eleven or like a Wawa or something or a
mhm,
convenience store, he would always get scratch offs. And
yeah,
he'd be like, oh, only one way out the neighborhood. Only one way out the neighborhood. And I'm like, oh, that's just not true, you know?
not true at all. Not true at all,
That's just
man.
not true. Um,
Look,
but
all that money your friend spent on scratch off tickets, he probably could have went
uh,
and invested in something.
exactly. Oh man, we were so young. We were like 20 when that used to happen. But um, yeah, so enjoying the process and really engaging with the process and not focusing on such an important point. Uh, you seem to have a really you seem to have a true like excitement when you talk about her. Would you consider that like your true passion?
It is, man. I really enjoy helping people.
Okay.
And it's become, I've even gained a lot more passion for it over the years. You know, what I do personal injury law, and there are times where my job can be very emotional. So, and what I mean by that is, matter of fact, this week I had 2 cases that I signed up. You know, people came to me because they wanted, families came to me because they wanted me to represent them, that involved multiple deaths where people died. And that's always a tough one. That's always a tough one. I have a client of mine, her husband was hit by a car and died, right? That was one case. I have another case where, and this just happened last weekend. I have another case where it was a woman who was driving her young daughter, who was like 10, 11 years old, and her daughter's friend, who was 10, 11 years old. And they were, you know, this is no secret. It's all in the media in New Orleans. If you look up, you
Public
know,
knowledge.
yeah, it's all public knowledge. There were 2 men who were driving their vehicles who were allegedly involved in a road rage skirmish going back and forth. Their vehicles lost control, came into my client's lane of travel where she hit them,
Hmm.
and she lost her life. Her daughter lost her life, and then the daughter's best friend is in critical condition.
Hmm.
So this is not the first time. And I'm not going to get into the gruesome details, but
We
this
don't
is
need
not,
no, we
yeah,
don't need,
yeah,
yeah, we
no,
don't
no,
need
we're
to
not going to
know.
get into the
No,
gruesome
don't
details.
need to.
But this is not the first time I've handled cases like that. And so what I now have become in my profession, one, they have entrusted me to handle their case, to help them get through this, because in the second scenario, you have a husband who lost his wife and daughter.
Right.
In the first scenario, you have a wife who lost her husband, and then their adult children lost their dad.
Hmm.
So, you know, getting back to the wife who lost her husband, you know, the first case, you know, she was solely dependent upon him. You know, he was the breadwinner. She's unemployed, but he was the breadwinner. What is she now going to do for the rest of her life? You know, it's now my job to make sure that I do everything in my power, if the money is available, to go and get some type of settlement that is going to be more than adequate enough to help take care of her and her needs for the rest of her life, because her husband is no longer able to do that for her.
Mm.
And then subsequently in the second one, I've now got a husband who no longer has his wife and his daughter. How do I help them get through this, both from a legal standpoint, and I'm even a little bit of a therapist throughout this process, because I've got to be there for them, you know, and how do I help them get through this so that way he can now move on, and he also has another child that he's caring for, and he no longer has that partnership in his wife. He no longer has that partner to help care for his son, nor does he have a partner to help, maintain the household. So they're entrusting me to help them get through those rough patches and help them figure that out so they can make choices and move on within the next chapter of their lives. And I actually take a lot of pride in that.
Mm.
And to know that I'm able to successfully do that is probably the most rewarding thing that I can do, even above beyond getting paid for it, because they need help. Their
Right.
lives have essentially crumbled, and they're asking me to help them put it back together.
So now, and so now, not only do you have to deal with the situation with what happened, you have to compartmentalize, putting aside your emotions and
Yep.
doing your job well.
Yep.
Do you have like a process that like? So I have. I'm gonna speak to like one individual here, probably a close family member. She just got admitted to the bar within the last year. She's also doing personal injury cases.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know if that part is true, but she just got admitted. So, like, what would be your advice to her as a young lawyer on how to handle difficult situations like that and compartmentalize, taking the emotion out of it and really focusing on your
It's
job?
it's tough, man.
Yeah.
It's tough because a lot of times, like I said, when you have to be there for your clients, and a lot of times they just want to keep retelling their stories.
Right.
That's kind of, it's cathartic for them. It's therapeutic.
Hmm.
All of those things, and you have to be there, and it can start to weigh on you. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm not perfect with it. Sometimes it comes home with me, and it affects me in my personal life. It affects me in my relationship. And so I have to do my best to try to leave it at the office. It's like literally turning on and off a light switch. And it's not that I don't empathize for these people and I'm not going to give them my all, but I can't carry everybody's burden because they're not my only case. And if that's the case, I'm literally going to be carrying hundreds of people on my back every day. And that, if you do that, that is the quickest way to get burnt out. It is
Mm.
the quickest way to even have your own mental health issues where you're depressed, or whether you're just you have a lot of anxiety about it. You have to understand that only thing that what you have to do is just be there the best that you can, and just work as hard as you can for your client. And then when the day is done, you have to then go now fill your time with other constructive things outside of work, whether it's family, whether it's your friends, or you have hobbies. You can't just go home. Like, you got to figure out things, working out.
Yeah.
You want to keep your mind, body, healthy, and all of these different things. Because if not, this profession will eat you up.
Mm. That you mentioned like working out and being able to take your mind away from it. The Rock mentions it a lot, and I talk about it a lot as well because I got it from The Rock. Right, having your anchor, right,
Hmm.
having that thing that keeps you centered, keeps you grounded, enables you to shut off the outside world and really work out your problems. For me, it's the gym. For me, it's lifting.
Yeah.
Do you have an anchor that you go to? Like, what's your go to activity that takes you out sort of out of that zone?
I have a couple different things that I like to do. The gym is definitely one of them, and actually, and I'm gonna be honest, I lost sight of it for a while, especially during COVID. I definitely used to be a gym rat,
Mm.
and COVID kind of kicked my butt not being able to go to the gym, and because I kind of got out of, let's call it, my routine,
Hmm.
it just threw me for a loop, sidetrack. So I'm like back in the gym, focusing on my health, getting healthy again. So that's one of my biggest things.
Okay.
I also just enjoy, just kind of being out and about. It's beautiful in New Orleans right now, so it's always great. There's so many places where you can just kind of go walk around, just kind of just be out.
Right. Right. You're
So
a social person, so you like to
yeah,
you yeah, 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 that makes sense. That makes sense.
so, and New Orleans is finally opening back up, so it's kind of like,
That's awesome.
it feels good to be outside.
Yeah.
Some of my friends, we have a bike riding group on Saturdays
Mhm.
where we'll bike literally almost 30 miles. We'll hit the
Okay.
entire city, and that has been something that I've taken a lot of joy and pleasure in, and getting good health benefits out of it too.
That's cool. That's
Yeah,
really cool. That's yeah, that having that thing, whatever it is, and it doesn't have to be the gym. It can be anything. It can be writing, it can be reading, it
yeah,
could be swimming or biking, or it doesn't matter.
yeah,
Whatever that activity is, I think that's such an important piece. Like I know for me personally, like if I don't have the gym in my life, like everything else doesn't
yeah,
work. Like everything else is
yeah.
out of sort. My anxiety spikes, a tremendous amount. So for the gym, like the gym for me is that thing. All
I'll
right.
tell you one other
Good.
good thing that I used to do a lot, and it's kind of changed. But when I was, let's just say, my late 20s, early 30s,
Uh-huh.
I was in a lot of leagues. So like the flag football leagues,
Yeah.
the basketball rec leagues, the kickball leagues. Kickball was probably the most fun, to be honest. I mean,
Kickball's an
it, it was
underrated. We're calling
underrated,
it a sport. It's an underrated sport.
super nostalgic.
Yeah.
One of those things. And I'm gonna tell you, we go. Let's take it even like using that and tying it back into one of our earlier conversations with networking.
Hmm.
You would be surprised how many young professionals are in these leagues.
Yeah.
Like,
Philly actually, it's funny that you said that because Philly actually, the city itself has like organizations that run sort of these, I want to call them intramural sports sort of thing.
yeah,
And it's all it's all networking opportunities. Like they have this thing called the PSL, like the Philadelphia Sports League, which is just a bunch of things, just like you mentioned, softball and kickball and flag football and that
yeah,
sort of thing. So they are available. They are great network opportunities. That's an interesting
yep.
point. Yeah. Okay. We talked about your career as a lawyer to this point. You brought up some amazing lessons. Is there anything else that really sticks out from your career as a lawyer that you want to share, like important lessons that stick out up to this point before we move on?
One thing that's taught me about being a lawyer is that I had to be organized very quickly.
Mm,
Keeping a calendar because there are consequences. And before that, I mean, I was kind of like all over the place, kind of just flying by the seat of my pants. But it actually taught me a lot about structure and organization because if not, uh, you can get into a lot of trouble with the judges and the courts, and you try to implement that in your personal life as well as having a lot more structure.
right.
But I would say the biggest thing is for a long time, I kind of took it for granted. But being a lawyer, like I said, the fact that the smiles that I get to put on people's faces when I resolve their cases and
Mm,
they're like, Justin, you really took care of me and looked after me. That is what makes it all worth it. Like this job can be very stressful, but when I see, clients coming to me, I had a young lady, I settled her case for a couple of hundred, like it was like almost like $300,000, right? And she's young. She's like 21 years old. And even after selling a case, like I'm in by no means a financial planner or financial advisor, but I'm like, look, this I'm not saying you will never make this kind of money, throughout your lifetime, but genuinely ask yourself, when is the next time? And I'm not saying that this is ever going to happen again, but when do you think is the next time you're going to get this kind of money ever again in your life? This is an
mm,
opportunity for you to get a great jump start at life. This is an opportunity for you to take this and invest in something productive and calculated investment that's going to help jumpstart you and maybe even create an opportunity for you. So take advantage of it. And she was very open to it. She's following through with the plan with the financial advisor, that she found and is going to be able to help guide her through that. And that's the kind of stuff that I think that is amazing and makes it all worth it.
that's something I love that you did that for her because it's something that I know and I'm just gonna use my case in particular. I know growing up in Northeast Philly,
Hmm.
that we were not taught. Like we're taught save every penny, right?
Yep.
Save it, but you're not taught how to invest. You're not taught how to be
Nope.
smart with your money. My mom's financial advice was invest your money. I said, Mom, I don't know what that means though. Like, what do you like? You don't. My parents didn't teach me how to invest my money. It was
Right.
just either save or you gotta put it in the stock market. Well, I don't know how to put it in the stock market. What do you mean by
Yeah.
that, right? I think financial literacy is something that I've taken so much more
Oh, it's huge,
serious.
man.
Yeah, you have
It's
to.
huge.
Yeah, and
It's huge.
is it something that was taught at a young age for you, or was it something that you'd
No,
sort of learned over time? Okay,
no,
yeah.
no, not at all, man. Look, and I love my parents. My parents have provided me with opportunities beyond imagination. My dad is a very, very well respected judge,
Mm,
legal scholar. My mother is phenomenal in her work as a philanthropist and in her consulting business that she has. But growing up, and they were taught the same thing. Growing up, go to school, work hard, get a good education, go get a good job being a lawyer or a doctor, or go work for a company, go be in corporate America, save your money, plan for retirement. You know, um, investing has never really been a big conversation in the household.
mm,
It was you going to college, you're going to grad school, you're going to do these things, and that was a great plan because it's worked out for me. But I'm now seeing the value and getting back to what we were talking about earlier: reading,
right.
educating yourself.
I was gonna
You know,
bring that full circle with that point
a,
we talked
a
about earlier.
lot
Yep.
of the world's millionaires don't believe in investing in the 401k for retirement. They believe in taking their money that they would use for retirement and investing for it to make money right now, actively and passively.
Right.
Because if you do it that way, both actively and passively, the passive income is already being set up where you can draw on it right now, and it's never going to go away even once you get to retirement.
Right.
And it's like, and then what people don't realize is like, okay, you're saving for your 401k. And I'm not telling people not to do that because I still think that's a great thing.
Right.
But what people don't realize, okay, you save, let's say you save a little over $1 million, right? Now it's time to draw on that once you become 65. More likely than not, the amount that you're able to draw without any penalties is probably going to be less than what you were making while you were actually working. And it's kind of like, wait a minute, I didn't work all of these years and I was making this amount of money. Now I'm retired and I'm making this amount of money. How is that fair? And so once I started really seeing that, I was like, wait a minute, I'm saving this to make what? I make more than that right now. That means I got to keep working. So what I said was, how do I do something different? How do I do something better? And that's when I started thinking about investing in real estate, learning about stocks and currency trading. I'm like, I want to make money right now that I can use for both active and passive income.
Right.
And so that's where I've kind of changed my mindset. Whereas like I'm still putting away for retirement, but I'm taking a lot of the money that I'm making. I'm blessed to be in the position that I am as an attorney because I can use that money to start to fuel other things that I want to do from an investment standpoint.
Right. And we'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
The currency trading, or in a couple of minutes. But just to wrap that point up real quick, man. Financial literacy, is so important, and it starts with being open to just educating yourself more and
Yep.
just being curious. Right. That's the basis of all this. Is just be curious. Right.
No,
Want to know more.
absolutely.
Want to know more.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you're you're a lawyer full time,
Yep.
right? But you're also a sports agent as well. I know that you're a certified contract advisor with the
Hmm.
NFL Players Association. I'm curious about that. I'm curious about like what specifically you do with them. The sports agent. I'm like a little confused with the sports agent versus just like
Yeah.
so just break that down and what specifically you do with the NFLPA because I think it's a pretty cool thing.
Okay. So in order to be a sports agent, you have to be licensed through the NFL Players Association.
Got it. Okay.
So you have to apply to the NFLPA to be a registered agent
Mhm.
in order to even have the ability to negotiate contracts for NFL players. Otherwise, if an NFL team negotiates a contract with a non-certified agent, and the NFL finds out about it, they can fine that team. I want to say like $200,000. It's anywhere from like, let's call it. I'm gonna give it a bracket because I don't want to give an exact number. Anywhere from $50,000 to $200,000
Okay. For negotiating with a non.
with a non-registered agent.
Okay.
So yeah, and then, we all know the NFL. I don't say we all know, but the NFLPA has been designed to be the representation for the players.
Right.
They are there for the players, not the agents. So the agents have to go through them in order to have the ability to represent players. And so we are governed by the NFLPA ourselves.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right. So, how did you even get into that? Why did you even want to do what made you get into that? How did you even get to that point where you're like, I'm gonna go after this?
You know, the funny story is that was something that I got talked into, man. It wasn't even on my radar, to be honest. You know, I was earlier on, and here's the irony of the situation. I was earlier on in my legal profession. I was in let's call it, you know, like getting into the latter stages of my 20s, mid to late 20s. And at that time, you know, I played football in high school, played football in college. And so I had a lot of friends at that time who were in the NFL currently.
Mm.
You know, they were doing well. I'm not gonna say they were not all of them were like Pro Bowls and superstars, but like I had a lot of friends. And so I had another friend of mine who was already an agent. He was like, Justin, man, you know, all of these players, man, you need to be an agent. You know, you can be, you know, we can be representing these guys, you know, we could be making money, you know, all this different stuff. And I'm like, man, I don't, you know, I mean, watching Arliss, like I used to watch, this is an old show to show how old I am now. I used to watch Arliss Michaels, you know, on it's like HBO Showtime.
You might have dated yourself on that one.
Yeah, I know. I used to watch Arliss, you know, and watching Jerry Maguire and like, you know,
I know Jerry Maguire, of course. Jerry Maguire's
and watching that movie. So like, you know, I knew about it and I was like, nah, I don't know if I really want to do it. And he just kept saying, man, Justin, you know, all of these guys, like they love you. Like they will allow you to represent them.
Right. It's a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Now, this convincing process legit took like, let's call it 2 years, 3 years for me to just buckle down and do it, right? And so because you have to apply, you got to go take a test. You got to do a few things. You got to jump through a few hurdles before you get certified. You just don't sign up for it and they make you an advisor.
Mm-hmm.
And so the irony behind it, by the time I do it, I'm now like 31, 32. And 32 years old, that's like you're starting to become an old man in the NFL. You know, no one's playing, barely anybody's playing at 32.
You're playing at 32. You've done.
You're a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
You're probably gonna be a Hall of Famer if you're playing at 32. You know?
Pretty much. Yeah. Or you just, you know, you've maintained your health. You maintain your body, and you're one of the lucky ones to get to that point for sure.
So here's the irony of it. By the time I do it, all of my friends are now retired from the NFL. So like, I mean, everybody else is just like young guys that maybe have some connection to me, whether it was because I just read an article, like my high school, they did a ranking of like, you know, which high schools have the most professional athletes. And my high school is like number 14 in the nation.
Oh, wow.
Like
What's the name of the high school?
St. Augustine High School. So like, who are the active guys in the NFL now from my high school are Leonard Fournette, who's a running back for the Bucks. Tyrann Mathieu, Honey Badger for Kansas City.
Yep.
Stanley Morgan.
Two Super Bowl champions, by the way.
Two Super Bowl champs. Stanley Morgan Jr., who plays wide receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals.
Okay.
And there might be another guy in there somewhere.
Okay.
But we've had players actively, you know, just to give you a quick, and I'm gonna digress for a second. From the time that I was in 8th grade, from the upperclassmen to when I became a senior and guys behind me, I played with 8 guys that made it to the NFL.
Wow. That's a different level. You ain't getting that growing up in Northeast Philly. We're not we don't have that talent pool, man. That's what was that experience? What was that experience like?
Oh man, dude, it was so you right that you okay, now we're gonna get into this topic. Let me tell you all the guys that were in high school with me at the same time. Like in let's just call it south from New Orleans, and then let's just call it southeastern Louisiana. It was Eli Manning, Reggie Wayne, Ed Reed, Jonathan Wells, Talman Gardner, who else was in that? Brandon Jacobs, Tremont Williams, Javon Walker. Who else was in the class? I'm giving you all the. I mean, there's actually several other guys who aren't big names but made it.
Ballers.
Ballers. I'm giving you, and I was in high school like at the same time with all of these guys.
Yeah. So you were pretty decent. You were pretty decent at ball. You had to be to play with those guys.
I did. I mean, I like to
give yourself.
I was pretty legit, man. I was pretty legit.
So you have the football background. It's in your blood. You've grown up playing the sport. You get talked into doing this, and then what's just what do you think has been that experience? What have you taken away from that experience thus far? Are you still doing? You're still doing it?
So I'm still certified.
Okay.
I'm gonna tell you, it's actually been a pretty fun experience because I really do enjoy football. I love football. I love watching football. I love going to games. So I get to go to a lot of college football games, and I go to a lot of professional games. And it's been a fun experience where I get to represent guys as they when they're coming out of college and they're transitioning from college to the NFL. Helping them get situated and get their opportunity to make their dreams come true, and guys who are currently there trying to get them on rosters and so forth. So that's been fun. But I'm gonna tell you, that's a tough business to be in. It's a cutthroat business to be in, and it's hard, man. And for me, being in two different worlds, being in the personal injury world and in the sports world, as far as client acquisition, I had to teach myself like it's not the same. I can get a personal injury case by talking to someone for 30 minutes. Whereas if I'm trying to get a football client, I'm probably talking to this guy for like 6-7 months.
Right. After he gets out of college.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, he can't. You can talk to him, but they can't sign anything. They can't take anything of value. They can't take anything of value.
Right.
But you're talking to these guys for like several months. In the attempt and the hope that they like you and want to go with you. And I'm gonna tell you, man, that's a tough business. And I've actually, I'm very honest about it, man. I have not hit a lot of my goals in that business. It's tough. I've represented guys who made 53-man roster and who've had some good years. But when you see like the big deals that get done, these $100 million deals and all this other stuff, I've never touched one of those.
How do you think that being, dabbling in that side of the business has translated over into like the personal side? How do you think it's elevated you as a lawyer?
Well, one of the things, and I'm actually starting to reevaluate my position as in being in the NFL, to be quite honest. It is something that takes up a lot of time because there's a lot of traveling that's involved, and I'm not able to do you're not able to do everything.
Of course.
And I think to a certain extent it's kind of spread me a little thin, to be quite honest.
Which is not a great thing.
It's not a great thing because it also prevents you from growing in other areas too.
Right.
Not only are I think about, okay, I really enjoy, and I actually had this conversation with Gary Vee, and Gary Vee made a great point. He was like, it seems like you really enjoy doing the stuff, and I do, but there's also a lot that goes into it as far as cost. Like right now, it's an expensive hobby more so than a business.
I've heard him have that conversation with other people through his like social media platform. I see him. I see him asking that conversation a lot
because he actually posted that conversation on his
cool.
Instagram page. So you might have that might have been me that you saw.
Maybe I'll have to go back and look at it now that I think maybe
I'll send it to you.
Send it to me.
I'll send it to you as well. But he did make a good point, and I was like, this is fun, this is cool, I enjoy it, but still at the end of the day, it's like being a baseball player when you're up to bat. If you're batting, a little over 300, like you're an all-star, right? Which when you think about it for percentage wise, that's only like 30%.
Right.
30, that's
not a great percentage. If you're taking a test, you failed.
You failed
horribly.
That's a failing grade if you're taking a test.
Right.
But in sports, that's how you look. Like guys who are batting over 300, when they're signing up these clients and they're getting good clients, they're all-stars. They're making a lot of money. But we all know more often than not, the average person is barely batting 100, right? Or a little under 100. And that's kind of like, I'm being honest, that's where I am.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's a very expensive hobby for me. So I've had to like sit here and reevaluate and think like, is this something that I really should be doing? Because I'm thinking about the time that I'm spending here and the return on investment, where the money that I'm spending here, I could be using that somewhere else that is going to be giving me a guaranteed return. And look, it's a dirty business, man. I've had clients who weren't the biggest recruits coming out of college, and I took a flyer on them and work with them, and they got an opportunity, and hey, they turned into this beautiful flower.
Mm-hmm.
And now that they're this beautiful flower, other agents want to come and pick it, and they literally did. And so when it was my turn to finally start renegotiating contracts and getting these bigger deals, I'm getting these sharks that came in and just, they stole my fish off the hook.
Mm,
So
mm,
that part's been really tough, man. It's
mm.
been really tough. And I'm like, you know what?
Yeah. Do you look at that and just do you look at that and sort of say, okay, now I know how not like how I don't want to be as either a lawyer or as just an agent. You're like, okay, now I have an example of what
That's
how
not my
not.
style.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you, man, that's not my style in either way, as both a lawyer and an agent. I'm not in the business of poaching clients.
I feel like that
Uh,
ultimately that might be a short term success for someone if that's their game
yeah.
plan. But I feel like in the long run that only has downside.
Well, it definitely has a lot of downside in my world as a personal injury attorney. It has a lot of downside, but for some reason in that sports world, man, it's literally like is either you're eating at the table or you're the food
Mm,
on the table in that business.
interesting.
And it's I mean it's a dog, as cliche as it is a dog eat dog world in that business because the numbers aren't there.
That's right.
You
Yeah,
know,
that's an interesting point. Yeah.
when you think about it, we have NFLPA probably has a little over like right at 1,000 registered agents, maybe a little over 1,000 registered agents, and every year you have 256 guys that get drafted in the NFL.
Yeah. So the competitive.
The competition is
Uh-huh.
crazy,
Uh-huh.
and you have the big boys of the world, these big companies out here who are in a position where they can sign 5, 6, 7 guys a year.
Right. I think
So
the guy that comes to mind like Drew Rosenhaus.
oh yeah,
Like a
oh
Drew
yeah,
Rosenhaus. Yeah.
he's like a Drew. I mean, Drew Rosenhaus probably has like probably close to almost 10 guys
Yeah.
every year, every year. You
That's
know,
yeah. All right. So all amazing experiences, and uh the fact that you've dabbled in the sports world, and I can tell just by talking to you though that you are really passionate about the personal injury thing, uh, and it seems like you're leaning way more into that than you're trying
oh
to get out
yeah,
of the sports world. Yeah, you can it
yeah,
could.
it's tough, man. And the other thing is too, again, it taught me that I'm depending on someone who's 20 when he's probably up for his next deal. He's 25, 26 years old.
Mhm.
And I remember how I was at 25 and 26 years old, making the decisions that I was making.
Yeah.
I'm not going to depend on a 26-year-old for my livelihood. Just not happening.
I mean that's one way
Not
to look at
happening.
it. That's a really good point. I think yeah, and especially because these kids are like getting, these people, their lives are changing overnight.
Oh,
So,
dramatically.
yeah,
Dramatically.
dramatically, the point where I can't even like begin to empathize with that position.
Let,
Other
let me
than good.
let me really put it in perspective. More less outside of the first round draft picks, let's just get to everybody at the back of the pack, right? If you're on the active roster for 17 weeks and you're fresh out of college, all of your friends who went and got entry level jobs out of college and working for this company, your 1 week game check is probably equivalent to their yearly salary
Mm,
for 1 week, for
mm,
one game,
yeah,
one game,
yeah.
equivalent
What's
to all of your friends' yearly salary.
the league minimum is what 500,000?
A little over 500.
That's
Yep.
I mean that's insane. That's but I mean, that's the monster that the NFL is. So I
Yeah.
guess it makes sense. By the way, this conversation is going fantastic. I hope are you having a good time?
Oh man, dude, this has been awesome, man. This
Okay.
has been so much
You
fun.
don't have to. You could tell me.
No,
Okay.
no,
Okay.
dude, like I said, I love talk because I feel like in talking about this, I'm giving a lot of the lessons that I've learned, which I'm sure,
Yeah.
or let me just say, I'm hoping
Yeah.
that people are taking note of and be like, you know what, yeah, that's true, that happened to me too. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't think about that, or wow, like I didn't think about that at all. Let me, figure this out and do something.
That's the goal. I mean,
Yeah,
that's why we're doing this, and that's why I was excited to talk to you because I feel like there was a lot of value in experience and stuff like that, and I think it's been hitting home so far. At least for me, I've learned a
yeah,
lot over since we've been doing this. So, okay, lawyer, sports agent, growing up in New Orleans, we touched on all of that. You've done a great job of really explaining not only your story but the lessons that came along with your experiences and stuff like that. But one cool thing, one really cool thing that you've had the chance. Maybe it's cool from the outside perspective. I'll see what your experience was like. But you got the opportunity, and are you still? I didn't see if you still were or not. But okay, I'm just gonna get to the point. Your reality television, Southern Charm, New
Yep.
Orleans, Bravo Television. Let's just start. How did that even come to fruition?
Man, I'm gonna tell you, man, that was it was put it like this, it wasn't anything that I was searching for. You
Okay,
know,
okay,
it just literally just happened by chance.
yeah,
But when I say it happened by chance, yes and no. It goes back to, again, kind of tying all of this stuff together, like a lot of networking that I've done, genuine relationships that I've built with people. It all kind of put itself together because, when the production company came down, they were already talking to some of the people that were also involved in the show.
hmm,
And the way these shows work, they say, well, hey, do you know any person, man or woman that's like this, or is a professional, or does this and has this kind of personality, or anything like that. And they'll start saying, yeah, well, I know this person. And then in my case, it was like, hey, you should reach out to Justin. He's a lawyer, he does this, he's involved, he's active in the community, he's at excuse me, he's at these different events, he's fun, he's funny, all these different things. And like, and it's just from been building relationships with people for a long time. So in that sense, my name got thrown into a hat. And so, I get a phone call and I'm like, all right, you want to talk to me? Sure, no problem. You want to Skype and do Zoom calls? Sure, no problem. And I'm like, all right, I'll see where this goes. What's the worst y'all gonna do? Tell me no,
right,
and I go right back to practicing law.
right, right,
Oh
right.
my God, my life is over,
Yep, yeah.
So that's really kind of how it happened, man. My name got thrown into a hat,
So,
and I just kept going through the process.
well,
And they look at lots of people, and I just kept sticking.
so that's something that I spoke about. You were in the stream on Wednesday. You should have been. Not you. I'm saying.
Yep.
Yeah. I did so I have this like little series that I'm doing called Worth the Read, and they're just books that I have read throughout the past few years that have really impacted me. And the book that I did on Wednesday was actually called Never Eat Alone. Okay.
Hmm.
Have you ever read it?
I have not.
It's a good book. It's by Keith Ferrazzi is the name of the author. It's a really good book. It's a networking book, and it
Hmm.
was one of the first three books that my mentor had handed to me when we first started working together. And I was going down I was living at the beach for the summer with seven of my friends. We were living down there, working, having a good time. And he was like, "Here, take these three books with you. Do your thing with your, have your fun with your boys. Read these three books, and we'll come back to me in the fall and we'll talk." So
Yeah.
in that book, it talks about engineering serendipity, right? And
Hmm.
that is a perfect example of doing just that. And like when we spoke about giving back earlier in the charity events, that's what I was talking about. Like I mentioned on Wednesday that I had a job offer that came to me a year after doing a charity event from someone that I never spoke to because I met someone at a charity event
Yep.
that just had a normal conversation. We
Yeah.
were just volunteering at this event, and you sort of did, you've done that with the way that you've handled yourself in the community and stuff like that. You engineered that serendipity to sort of get this experience that you weren't even looking for.
I mean, literally, and even getting back to a lot of the folks that on the show are part of the philanthropic scene or at different charity events,
Huh?
and just having those relationships for as long as I've had. Like I said, my name just, like I said, just got thrown out there,
Yeah.
and it was an amazing opportunity. I don't know where do we go from here. I don't know if we do another season. I don't know any of that stuff. But the one thing I can say though is I got to do something that the overwhelming majority of people either will never get the opportunity
Mhm.
to do or can't do, because it's not for everybody, and it's not something that you just walk up and do. It's actually tough, being in front of camera. And so I was very humbled by the experience, very blessed, to have that experience and to be a part of that. And it was crazy, something that I used to watch Bravo religiously. And the
Really
fact to have, yeah, oh yeah,
interesting.
dude, I was a
Okay.
big Housewives fan, dude.
Okay.
Big Housewives fan. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All
And
right.
so to go from watching it to like watching myself on it
Yeah.
was like I
Weird.
mean, it was weird, but
Yeah.
it was just like, oh my God, like I cannot believe this 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 young black guy from Chantilly, neighborhood in New Orleans is on a Bravo TV show. Like, what?
So so what was that like? What was the? Have you ever been in front of a camera like that before? Like, what was the sort of you walk on set day one and what's going on? Like, how are you? What's the
Well,
experience like?
no, I mean, it's not a set. I
Oh,
mean,
it's real. It's
literally,
reality television, so it's
it's
just no.
reality.
Yeah,
So
right, right, right,
yeah,
right,
so
right. Sorry.
they're capturing everything in our lives, man.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna tell you, the first time they stick a camera in your face, camera does two things. One, it'll make you go inside your shell like a little turtle, or you're going to put on a show like ever before.
Yeah, time to shine.
Time to shine.
Yeah.
And and sometimes depending like and it could be a combination of both, depending on what's going on, while you're filming, or whatever the case may be. But one of those two things are gonna happen. So it's definitely different, man. It was there were moments where I'm like, you know, this is some bullshit. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to curse on
No,
your
you can
show, man.
curse. Yeah, curse. Curse.
Uh,
No, no, no.
I was like, yo, man, this is some bullshit. I'm ready to
Yeah.
go home. This is stupid. But overall, though, the experience was really cool. It was really awesome. And I was very fortunate to be a part of that experience.
Okay. Cool. So let me ask you, why didn't you propose? Why weren't you proposing? When I did
Yeah.
the research before, that's the only question that I saw was just the
Oh,
why
man,
isn't he
dude.
proposing? What's stopping him from proposing? Why is he afraid to propose? Blah, blah, blah. I was like, what is happening?
I'm gonna tell you a lot of it. It kind of became centered
Yeah.
around what was happening, and even like outside, dude. Like I'd be at the grocery store, and I get little taps on my shoulder from the older ladies who are in the produce section, like, And it's funny, man. I think this is so funny. Be like, I watch your little program. I see you on TV, and I'm like, why is my program? And first of all, you the fact that you're calling it a program. Secondly, why is it little?
Yeah.
And then third, it's kind of like, and then I'm not gonna lie, man. A part of it was just like, it started to. Actually, I'm not being honest, man. It started to become a little overwhelming, man.
Mm.
And
Because it's
with that,
intrusive. It's intrusive.
it's very intrusive, and that was something that, to be honest, I really wasn't prepared for. Me and my girlfriend, we that was something that we talked about for sure. That was something that we are working, towards in our relationship. Like, that is the goal. Like, we're dating seriously.
Right.
But then it just kind of became like, everybody's like, when are you gonna do it? When are you gonna do it? And it just took this whole life form. And I'm like, yo, I'm gonna do this when I want to do this, not when anybody else wants me to do
And
this.
Bravo TV is telling me to do.
Well,
Yeah.
no, Bravo didn't tell me. I'm not gonna say no. Bravo didn't tell me
Right.
I had to do it.
Okay.
It was more so. It was a lot of the outside people that started kind of coming in, and that actually started to hinder our relationship. It really affected us. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying?
Mm.
And we had to kind of get back grounded and just be like, you know what, this is us. This is our timeline, and we're gonna do things when we want to do them, not on anybody else's timeline.
Got it. Got it. So how do you think that experience made you, or did it all? What did you take away from that experience, and how have you sort of um, used maybe the lessons that have come out? Like, what were some of the lessons that came out of that experience? Have you applied them to your, to your
Yeah,
career and stuff like that? What yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, absolutely, man. I mean, one of the biggest things about being on a reality show is that they really want you to dig deep and really say what's on your mind and what you're feeling.
Mm.
And a lot of times, when we're talking to people outside of, like let's take the reality show outside of it for a second. We're talking to people, and a lot of times things still get resolved surface level, right?
Right.
And so you think there's resolution there, but a lot of times there's not. And so Bravo actually asks you to walk into, you know, the beekeepers area, and like you got to get in there, like get in there and get the honey out. Like,
Mm.
don't just go walk by it, like get in there.
Yeah.
And it what it does, it forces you to have very tough conversations. And that can be very difficult because you don't want to hurt people's feelings. Well, some people may want to hurt people's feelings, but
Mm.
generally you don't want to hurt people's feelings.
Oh.
But it also teaches you, like, to say, hey, look, you got to be honest, you got to be transparent, about what you're thinking and what you're feeling.
Right. Oh yeah. The truth hurts.
Yeah.
If that's part of the reason why a lot of even business business relationships and personal relationships in general, like communication, the best businesses are the best businesses, the best leaders, right, are the best communicators.
Yep.
And
Big time.
yeah, you need to be able to dig into that and really resolve those issues. That's cool, man. That's so you don't know if it's shooting a second season or not.
Well, we did 2 seasons
Two
where,
seasons. Okay.
yeah, third one
Third
is one of
season.
those. I'm not sure, man. And at the end of the day, I've stayed grounded and continue to grow and develop my personal injury practice and the other things that I'm doing. So if
That's
that's
cool.
not in the cards for us, I'm still growing and expanding. I never stopped.
Facts.
So
Facts. Facts. Uh, I love that. That's awesome. That's such a unique experience. All right. Lastly, I want to touch on this because I feel like in our original conversation, I think it came up that you were working on a new sort of project.
mhm,
Maybe this forex trading like group,
yeah.
and you were just looking to connect with some more people. So tell me a little bit about what you're trying to do.
Yeah, no. So what I've been doing, and it all started, during the pandemic, and doing personal injury. I'm usually, we usually get cases from like lots of auto accidents,
Mm,
work related cases, medical malpractice cases, a lot of offshore stuff. Well, obviously with COVID shutting down everything, guess what? No one's driving, no one's working, doctors aren't doing elective surgeries,
right.
everybody's at home. And I saw that my business, and we're not in danger, my firm is not in danger of going out of business or anything close to it, but I knew there was going to be a big dip in business.
Mm,
And because again, I remember at one point I was riding my bike in the city, around the city during COVID, and I had the entire city to myself. There wasn't a single car on the road. It was like I am
yeah.
legend. It was crazy,
Yeah. That. Yep. Yep.
and so I knew that this was going to happen. So what I decided to do was take action. I say, you know what? I've got a lot of cases right now that are still going to get resolved, but there's going to be a quarter or 2 quarters where I'm going to have some serious gaps until business picks back up. So how do I prepare myself for that in the next coming year when I probably see it?
Mm-hmm.
And so getting back into kind of like changing and like now it's like either sink or swim. I felt like, things are going to be tight or it might even be a little worse. So let me not wait to figure out a plan when that happens. Let me be proactive. And I started educating myself, started learning about investing in stocks and currency trading and real estate and really looking at, additional options, to supplement.
Mm-hmm.
And I really got into currency trading and real estate, but really got into currency trading because
By the way,
I felt like
sorry, real quick. By the way, forex trading for anyone watching who doesn't know, forex is foreign exchange.
foreign exchange,
Right,
correct. Yeah, I'm
right,
sorry.
foreign
I'm used to
exchange.
saying the acronym all the time.
No,
So
no, no, no. I've heard of it, but one of the questions was going to be just to explain what exactly is forex trading.
yeah, so let me give you so on some level, if people have gone out of the country, you've actually traded foreign exchange currency before.
Mm-hmm.
If on some level, if you've ever traveled out of the country. So what does that mean? So like on the foreign exchange market, everyday currencies have values where they literally go up and down in value against each other. So like if you're going from the US to London, the US dollar might one day it might cost you $1.40 to get £1 British, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then in 3 days later, it might cost you $1.30 to get £1 British. So literally, when you go over there, and I usually even simpler. I'm pretty sure a lot of people, since we're in the U.S., they've probably been to Mexico before they've been to Europe.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you go down to Mexico and you go exchange $100, and this is not the exact exchange rate, but just for demonstrative purposes, let's say for $100, you're going to get 1,000 pesos, right? And but while you're there, you have that cash if you go shop at the markets, to go buy souvenirs and trinkets and whatnot. But everywhere else, you use your credit card. Well, let's just say at this point on this trip, you actually wind up not spending any of your pesos, and you now have 1,000 pesos. It's time to go back home, and you can't spend pesos in the United States. You got to change it back to
Yeah, US
the
dollar.
U.S. dollar. So when you first exchanged it, it was at, for every US dollar, you get 10 pesos. Well, obviously $100, you get 1,000 pesos. Well, now for every $1, you get $1.10. So now when you go home, that means you get, 1,100 bucks,
Mm.
or change to $11, you get 1,100 bucks coming home.
Okay.
That is actually currency trading. Or if it went down to 90 cents to one, 90 cents got you, or a dollar got you 900 pesos, you lost money. So essentially what you're doing there, you're doing the same exact thing, but on a digital platform in the foreign exchange market.
Okay.
So what I've been doing is I've been, giving out educational programs and teaching people how to trade in the foreign exchange market on a digital platform and doing it to scale, at a higher level. And what we do is in those trading platforms, the spreads that you have, you can, let's say you can use a dollar and potentially make like $4 on a trade,
Right.
whereas one currency pair against another one. So that is like the basics of how foreign exchange works. The market cap for foreign exchange is a lot bigger than the stock market. And the difference is in the stock market, like, everybody was running to buy Tesla. And I'm not saying if you didn't have the opportunity to do it because it was going to be a great trade for you. But when you go to buy one share of stock, you've got to buy the value of that stock
Right.
generally.
Right.
So if Tesla is running at $700, you need $700 to buy a share. You can't,
739 as of yesterday.
yeah,
739.
739 to buy one share. You can't just go in there with, I got $500 and let me get a piece of a share. That generally does. They have some apps that allow you to do it, but it's tough.
Well, just Robinhood does allow you to make. People are not going to like the fact that I'm still talking about Robinhood or using Robinhood,
Yeah.
but Robinhood allows you to make limit orders where, and that's so real quick. If
Yeah.
you are investing in stocks, and I don't know if it's the same foreign exchange currency, if you don't have the capital up front to just buy one share or buy multiple shares, you do what and actually it's suggested to not do it all at once. You want to average cost dollar your
Yes.
your
Yeah.
investment. So even if you have $500 and Tesla's sitting at $739, which is the close that yesterday, you want to just every week say, okay, I'm going to put $200
Right.
into Tesla. Then by the end of the month, I'll have one share of Tesla.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So in foreign exchange, there's no set number that you need to have to get into the foreign exchange market. You don't have to have $739 to buy a share in the foreign exchange market. You can literally come in with $50, $100 to get started and trade currencies to where you can make a profit. And the good thing about it is, stocks can be a little tricky when you're talking about it, like when you're trying to buy things on a bull run or if you're trying to short stocks.
Mm-hmm.
For a lot of people, that can go over people's heads when you're talking about getting options.
Right.
But in the foreign exchange market, you're either going to buy up or you're going to sell. It's one of the, you only have two options. You don't have the multiple options like in stocks. So it kind of simplifies it for you a little bit more too. And plus the market cap is in the currency, foreign exchange currency is like over $7 trillion that's being exchanged today. So your money is ready instantaneously, as opposed to in the stock market where it's at billions of dollars.
Just real quick, because I don't have any experience with foreign exchange, so I think this is a good learning moment for me. Like you're trading like you're trading the values of currencies from around the world, right? Like how do you specifically explain like what you're like? I know when I'm trading a stock, I know that I have this one share of this stock that I'm gonna like sell because I'm either gonna buy or sell because it dipped in price. Is it sort of the same like
Yes.
concept
So
behind foreign exchange?
so the same way, like, we learn how to read the charts, the candlesticks on the charts, and you try to, based on the trends, using some of the techniques that you've learned with, like, support and resistance lines, and I'm using terminology that I'm sure a lot of people don't understand here.
Not
But that's fine.
going way over my head.
Yeah. But you, like, some of the techniques that you learn, you try to take that to do your best to predict the market, whether that pair is going to have a bull run where it's going to go up or it's going to come back down. And so what you need to do is figure out, let's say if you're going to be trading like the US dollar against the euro, okay? you think that at some point the value of the US dollar is going to get stronger. So you're going to try to find you're going to use your techniques to be like, I think this is going to be a run, whereas it's at low. It's low right now, but it's going to go up. So I'm going to buy in at a low position, and then once it hits, this position on the charts, then I'm going to sell out my position
Mhm.
and make my money. But then vice versa, at some point, it's going to go back down. You just need to do it, and you can catch it coming back down, where you can then buy it at a high point and then sell it off
Mm.
and make money as well. So
Oh,
those are your
interesting.
only two options in foreign exchange. Either you buy low and then you sell at a high point, or you buy it at a high point knowing that you're going to sell it once it's coming all the way down.
Okay. So how can people get in, if people want to learn, maybe have some questions for you or just want to get, maybe they want to get involved with what you're doing as far as like a group and stuff like that. How can they just reach out to you on social media or like what?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I want, if anybody's interested in learning about the foreign exchange market, or if they have even any legal questions about anything, please reach out to me through social media. My handle is the Justin Reese. It's very simple.
Mhm.
Just DM me all your questions. I answer them all directly, and more than happy to give you more information on it.
Okay. And then if I wanted to like start, obviously you need to do your research, you need to read and learn the process, but I'm just unaware of where to actually like do that. Is it like programs or is there something like an E-Trade or like something like that where you can like what platforms are out there to do that?
So there's actually different trading platforms that you can actually be a part of, that you can do. I can tell you, hold on. The one trading platform that I'm in now is called MetaTrader, which is
MetaTrader.
yeah, MetaTrader is a big one where for foreign exchange, for the foreign exchange markets, and then you have to link a broker to your MetaTrader app, whereas like you would buy Bitcoin from Coinbase or from Cash App, and
Robinhood
you
as
link it to
well. Yeah,
yep,
Robinhood. Yep.
yep, and you can then upload your Bitcoin to your broker. Your broker then funds your account, and then you can start trading.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. Okay, cool. All right, man. I will I want to let you get out of here. We've been doing this for a while now, and also I just got a text message. I need to go back to work. So I need to get moving. I really enjoyed this conversation, man, and I appreciate you taking the time to do this. I look forward to speaking to you a little further outside of this,
Absolutely,
outside of this
man.
platform and just, building a little bit of relationship there. Conversation has been awesome. So I look forward to building off of that.
Yeah, same here, man. And look, I sincerely appreciate your time having me on your show. Again, I just love doing this, love sharing information with folks, man. So looking forward to it. We'd love to do it again another time too down the road, man.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I hope you have a great weekend. Have a good Friday. And thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. I'll talk to you soon, okay?
Sounds good, man. Take care.